Hey, everybody, welcome in. This is the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I'm Matt Verderame, and this is a Tuesday. AMA, the old mailbag. Ask me anything. Fire away. I wonder what we'll talk about. Did you guys enjoy Sunday? I'd imagine most of you did. I know I did. I was in Glendale. I was at the Super Bowl. I got to talk to some of the guys after the game. I wrote a column on it. Hopefully, you got to read it. If you didn't, I tweeted out on Monday afternoon. Also, it's at Fansided, my Stacking Box column, which I really focused on the adjustments that were made at halftime. And most of the adjustments were pretty much Mahomes and Kelsey kind of telling guys, look, it's time to get going. And they answered the call. And obviously, there are a couple schematic adjustments as well. So I'm not going to waste time talking. I am going to let you guys ask the questions. I'm going to go for about 45 minutes here because we got a meeting after this. But in the meantime, let's go. Let's fire away. Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl 57 champions. Alex, does the Super Bowl mean more for Kelsey or Mahomes or Andy Reid becoming the GOAT? I think for Mahomes and Andy, because the quarterback and coaches are always the ones that are judged by championships. I mean, Kelsey, don't get me wrong, doesn't hurt, but I don't think it drastically alters what his legacy would have been and what it is. I think for Andy, it puts him in another class. Not many coaches have won 2 Super Bowls. I believe it's 13, same with quarterbacks. That's some rare air, okay? And Andy, once you factor in all the regular season and just, postseason success he's had too, Andy's got an argument right now as top 5 head coach of all time. And Mahomes clearly at this point is a top 5 quarterback of all time. All right. Let me keep rolling here. And then also, of course, the Arrowhead Addict podcast, as always, sponsored by the KC Beer Co. Check them out. Dare to beer different. Kansas City Beer Company, best in the biz. And the Arrowhead Lager, which they keep selling out of in 6-packs, which is awesome. You see it there. That is our beer that we brewed in collaboration with KC Beer Company. Couldn't be more excited to have them on as a partner, as always. All right. Lucas says, breaking news. Jonathan Gannon hired as Cardinals head coach. Yes, he was. Hired a few minutes ago. That was expected. Mile High, where's the Arrowhead Addict meetup? I don't know. So I just got home at 2:00 in the morning. I don't know parade-wise. I know the plan right now is to be at the draft. I know that's the plan. I would love to be at the parade, man. I'd love to take my daughter. She would go crazy. I'm a little worried about a 5-year-old being around that many drunken people. Might scare her. So I think I'm going to pass on it. There's a little part of me that thinks I might pick her up from school and just drive 7 hours out there. We'll see. All right. Let me keep flying through. Any chance for the Chiefs to trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Yeah, I do think it's possible. I do. I don't know if it's likely because I think a lot of teams will be on Hopkins, but I think let's put it this way. I think they'd put a call on. Josh, more likely bringing Juju back on a reasonable deal in a weak free agent market, or keep MVS his current number. Put your hands together, man. I think there's a chance to do both things. But if you ask me which one's more likely, keep MVS because he's already in the contract. All right. Trevor says, why do sports analysts say one of the greatest or one of the great quarterback coaches teams of all time instead of one of the greatest QBs of all time? I have no idea, man. I got nobody. Who do we keep? Who do we drop? Asked Tommy. Look, man, it's hard. I'll dig into that once we go to the combine here in a few weeks, and I'll dig in a little bit before that too. But combine, you kind of find a lot of stuff out. My initial feeling, they will tag Orlando Brown. Then you get into the Juan Thornhills, the Juju Smith-Schusters, the Andrew Wileys. I think for Wiley and Thornhill, it's got to be at the Chiefs number. I think there's interest there. I think there would be interest in retaining them, but I think it's going to be their number. Noddy, I think they probably let walk. Burton, I don't know why he'd want to come back. He never plays. But if they want him back, I mean, they could get him back. Hardman, I think, is gone. Yeah, I think that's probably. I think Juju's the big question. It's a weak receiver market. What does he command, and what do the Chiefs want to pay? Because don't forget, they love Tony, and if they keep MVS, if Tony, they have MVS. They've got Sky Moore. I think there's plenty of room in that rotation for Juju. But then if they go out, if they like trade for DeAndre Hopkins or something, then I think that's the liquid one or the fluid one. That's the one to watch. Okay. Let's keep moving here. I know there's gonna be a lot of questions today. Russell, the Chiefs host the AFC Championship game again this coming year. Bro, I'm picking up the host the AFC Championship game every year until they don't. I'm a big believer in that. That's why I picked the Bengals over the Chiefs in that game a couple weeks ago. Prove to me that you can't do it, or prove to me that you can do it, depending upon which way we're looking at this. And in this situation, prove to me, anybody else in the AFC, that you can host an AFC title game before the Chiefs can. Because nobody can do it since Mahomes has been the quarterback. I will absolutely pick them to be back in the AFC title game. If Mahomes didn't have to read Kelsey for the rest of his career, where do you put the line for Super Bowl wins? 4.5? If you didn't have either one of those guys starting now, I'd probably put it at 3.5. All right. Foss, is this the best or the greatest Chiefs season of all time? Well, I mean, obviously it's one of three, right? Yeah, that 69 team, the collection of talent was incredible. I mean, they had 6 Hall of Famers on defense. But they also had a lot of injuries that year. Dawson didn't play a ton that season. It might be, man. It probably is. Yeah. I mean, 14-3, and you go through Lawrenceburg and Hurts to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's pretty damn good. And considering Mahomes' limitations or anything else, yeah, I'd probably say it is. I'd have to really think about that, but off the top of my, just immediately, I'd say yeah. What do you think about the penalty? I thought it was a penalty. James Bradbury said it was a penalty. I thought it was horrible timing. I get why people are pissed. In real time, I was kind of like, why are you going to call that in that spot? At the same point, it's a penalty, man. Like, he held them. And if the Chiefs did that, everybody here knows, because I say this all the time at the officials. I don't want to hear it. And I say it when the Chiefs get screwed by the officials. I say, like, look, the Eagles put themselves in that position, and Bradbury held them. He did hold them. Now, would Juju have made the catch? I don't know. You know, there's so many woulda, coulda, shouldas. But it's not impossible that he could have made the catch. Like, if that was the Chiefs, I would have said, you know what, then don't hold him. He held him. Let's see. Do you think Jason Kelce retires this offseason? Maybe. He's got a lot of money coming to him. I think he sticks around. They're a really good team. I think he sticks around. Just a guess. Did the Chiefs try to sign D-Hop this offseason? I mean, I'd at least make a question. I'd at least put in a call, because they'd have to trade for him. 2 years, $36 million for DeAndre Hopkins in this climate. That ain't nothing. That's not bad. And they're basically 2 1-year options, because guaranteed money's finished, man. I'd make that call. Now, if he wants to come over and then redo the contract, then I balk at it, okay? But if he's willing to come over and play on that deal, I'd make a call. Absolutely. What'd your dad have to say at halftime? You know, it's funny. I was obviously covering the game. It was weird. Normally, I'm up in one of the press boxes. So they have regular press box. They have the auxiliary press box, which is kind of like a press box they set up in the stands. And every year I've ever covered the Super Bowl, I've been in one of those too. This year, they put a lot of us, like 60% of us, in the media workroom, which is like a tent outside the stadium, essentially, with all the TVs set up. So that's where that's actually where I was for the game. Never been there before, but they shrunk the auxiliary press boxes. They wanted to get more seats in for the game. And so normally I can't talk to my dad during Super Bowl, because I'm watching. I just stepped right outside the tent and just talked to him at halftime. I think it was kind of like, look, defensively, they're a mess. They've got to figure it out. But offensively, if they could just score a touchdown here to get back into it. Big question was Mahomes' health. But we both kind of felt the same way. If they score coming out of half, it's game on. They did. It was. And here we are. Who are must signs for us in this offseason despite cost? I think the bigger things right now, look, you got to tag Brown. I don't care what anybody thinks of Orlando Brown. I've said this isn't a Super Bowl thing. Like, he would immediately be by a mile the best left tackle on the market. Like, you keep that guy, okay? And then after that, I don't know that there's anybody who's a free agent that I was like, if they lost him, it'd be crushing. I mean, Juju's probably next in line. I actually, though, I look at it more like the guys with 1 year left on their deals. what are you doing with Frank Clark? Are you extending him? Are you like, are you cutting him? What are you doing? I got to tell you, after talking to the guys after the game, talking to Travis Kelce, talking to Christian, talking to Frank Clark himself, like, I can't believe I'm saying this because I felt a lot of Clark's career has been underwhelming in Kansas City from a production standpoint during the regular season. I think they've almost got to extend him, like, and just smooth the money out. I don't. He's so important to them in the room. And one guy I'll give a lot of credit to this on. He's a friend of mine. He works over at KCS and he does a great job. BJ Kissel. BJ was in the room with that team, in the building with that team for a long time. And he will tell you that very few people are more important to that team than Frank Clark for a lot of reasons. Kudos, BJ's always been his biggest defender. And I've been somebody who said, look, I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's worth the money he's getting. And he's great in the playoffs. He's been good in the regular season. This year was his best year with the Chiefs, in my opinion. I thought he was a mentor, he was a leader, and he was a really good player all season long. I think that's the key question. What are you doing with him? You're going to extend Chris Jones this offseason, and you're going to extend L'Jarius Sneed this offseason. You got to at least extend one of them. That way the tag's applicable to the other. All right, let me try to run through a couple of these quick. Evan, are you going to the parade? I don't think so, man. I don't love to, but I've been traveling so much. I got more travel ahead of me with Indy. There's a part of me that's going to just think, like, should I just get Maisie and just drive straight out there right after her school day today? I just don't know if I can swing it. Alex, what are your thoughts on the snow globe play? Listen, that's who they are. That's who they are. I mean, if it had worked, it would have been one of the more hilarious plays of all time. But in the moment, I was just like, what are they doing? Jonathan, do you think now that the Chiefs have mastered the short passing game, they'll target a deep threat in free agency? That part of their game kind of went away, and it would be good to have back. It's a good point. I've wondered that. I've thought now that they're so proficient at it, now, like, the only thing it feels like they're missing on this team, other than maybe like a real shutdown corner, although I think McDuffie's going to become that, is like, do they just go out and get a DeAndre Hopkins? Or if, like, Keenan Allen gets cut, now he's not a big deep threat, but, like, you're going to get him, and then you have that true number one receiver, and now you're just insane. Like, I mean, I think there's a part of me that says they'll go, well, we have the number one offense in the league this way. It's fine. There's another part of me knowing the way Brett Veach operates who will say, you know what? Like, let's go big game hunting. Let's do it. We got the capital to do it. I can see them doing it. I definitely can see them doing it. All right. Let's see. Okay, 1 of 4. Does the Super Bowl win put more eyes on Bolton next year in the Pro Bowl Defensive Player of the Year type conversation? Yes, the Super Bowl changes a lot of things, man. Changes a lot of lives and a lot of careers. Nick Bolton, in my opinion, outside of the two quarterbacks, was by a mile the best player on the field in that game. Now, you could talk about Chiefs offensive line, too. You throw them in there, it's totally fair. Bolton was unbelievable. He scored once. The man arguably should have scored twice. He had 9 tackles. He had huge plays. I mean, some of those tackles were major tackles, third down stops, stuff like that. Nick Bolton, for all the consternation we've had this year about, well, is he getting downhill fast enough? Is he good enough in coverage? They unequivocally lose and probably lose bad on Sunday without Nick Bolton. He was amazing. Should Tony Richardson be in the Chiefs Hall of Fame? I think he is. I think he is in the Chiefs Hall of Fame. He was great to talk to, by the way, this week. Ross, congrats you, Verderame, on a great season. Thank you for all you do. And no problem, man. Thank you for being here. Happy to do it. Thank you. Flapjack, name another team in the Super Bowl era that was down by double digits in both games in the Super Bowl, came back and won. I'll wait. The only times it's ever happened are Brady and Mahomes. They've each done it twice. It's insane. It is. I mean, Mahomes, it's like they get down 10, it's when the game starts. It's almost like they're not even awake until they're down in the game, because otherwise it's boring. Doug, thanks, man. Really appreciate that. George is asking, how can the Chiefs guard against total collapse with injuries on the O-line late in the playoffs again? I mean, before those injuries, the game against Tampa Bay could have gone like this one. I mean, I think the Chiefs understand that if Mahomes is upright, they're probably going to win. I mean, look, they just won the Super Bowl and played 12 quarters in the playoffs. And for 11 of them, Mahomes was on one leg. It's insane. Like, he was nowhere near 100%, and it didn't matter. Made no difference. Still won. Still won. Still scored 27, 23, and 38 in the playoffs against two of the better defenses in the league. It was unbelievable. I shared this stat on Twitter. The Chiefs in the Super Bowl averaged 6.4 yards per play. The Eagles on the year were number one in defensive yards per play against, 4.8. The worst defense in the league this year, yards per play wise, was Detroit at 6.2. If you kept up with all those numbers, you know what I'm about to say. The Chiefs made the Eagles the worst defense in football by yards per play in that Super Bowl, and Mahomes couldn't even move for parts of it. Just insane. All right, let's see. Nathan, if you were Frank Clark and you're that close to the postseason sack record, do you want to come back to the Chiefs on a smaller deal extension or go somewhere else? Look, man, I want to get paid if I'm Frank Clark, right? I want to get paid. I got a family, I want to leave generational wealth, and I want to get paid what I think I'm worth. That all being said, do I think you'd like to stay in Kansas City? Yes. They are very close in that D-line room. Very close. And Clark's not just close with Chris Jones and Colin Saunders. He's close with Travis Kelce. He's close with Mahomes, man. There's a brotherhood with that group of guys that have been there, that have won it twice. There's only a few guys on the team that have won it twice, man. And he's one of them. And he's a huge part of the reason why. But he's going to want to get paid. He's going to want to get paid. And he should. He should. Gonzo, did you hear Nick Wright's awesome take? Teams that won the Super Bowl while Mahomes was in the league all jeopardize their future. I did hear that. And he's right. Look, the Chiefs have been, able to really lengthen their window here, while a lot of teams have really kind of gone all in. It's a credit to Brett Veach. Latrell, what are the chances the Chiefs trade that first for a player like they did with Orlando Brown? D-Hop, maybe. They're not going to have to give up the first for D-Hop. I think Hopkins would be maybe like a day 2 pick. I think they're going to keep the pick. Now, look, you never know who becomes available, right? And that could change. But just based on right this second, I don't think there's anybody out there they'd give up a first-round pick for. Ed asks Keenan Allen if he gets released. I think Keenan Allen in Kansas City would be ridiculous. And I'll tell you right now, boy, the Chiefs love to twist the knife to Chargers. Okay. Now, does that mean they'd go out and sign him just to sign him? No. But no, I think the point's well taken. Ed, I think Allen as that great of a route runner with Mahomes, good luck. Chris Jones is a must-keep. Bro, if they don't keep Chris Jones, they're out of their minds. I will bash them to no end if they ever moved on from Chris Jones after this season. All right, let's see. Let's keep moving here. Bryson, if I remember correctly, we were top 3 in salary cap, top 3 in terms of youngest roster in the NFL, and had the most draft picks this year. Can you confirm and or elaborate on that? So, yeah, yes and no. All right, now, youngest roster I'd have to look up. That I don't know. I know they're one of the youngest. I don't know if they're top 3. So, cap space is interesting with the Chiefs. The Bears have the most by a mile at $94 million. The Falcons are second at $56.5 million. The Chiefs sit per overthecap.com. It's $7 million. Oh, only $7 million. But here's the reality with the Chiefs. They can convert about 22, 23 million of Mahomes' money into future years. And if they do that right away, they're at $30 million. All right. Now, Frank Clark has a cap hit of 28.6. Frank Clark's not getting that. If they cut him, they save $21 million. Okay. They're either going to bring that cap number down to about 10, in my opinion, maybe even a little lower, or he's gone. So let's just say they were to cut Frank Clark. Immediately between that and Mahomes, they have $51 million. They're like top 3. Okay, because there's a couple. If they cut MVS, they'd save $7 million. They'd eat $4 million in dead money. If they extend Chris Jones, they'll bring his number is 28.3. They'll bring that way down if they extend him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if they cut him, they save $1 million. They eat 2.5. I could see him being a post-June 1 cut. With him, he's a rookie deal. It wouldn't matter. I can see them trading him, and trying to get something for him. Because if they trade him, they save $2.1 million. But yeah, I mean, I think the guys to watch that are reasonable. Clark, what are they? I mean, he's the big one. What are they doing with Clark? And then MVS. I got to tell you, at $11 million a year, considering the receiver market, it's not a bad deal, man. It's not a bad contract at all. I would think they will keep him, unless again, if they bring back Juju and they add Hopkins around, then maybe it makes sense. Okay. Let me scroll and make sure I'm not missing anybody. Edwin, what was the key turning point for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and the tide shifted? All right, so I have two things. One is Eagles are up 14-7 with the ball at midfield. They had a 3rd and 1, and Sayamalu jumps up and gets called for a false start. That would have been an easy first down. They would have just done that rugby play. Instead, it's 3rd and 6. That's when Bolton has his scoop and score. So that's number one. Number two, when it's 24-21, the Eagles were driving and they had to kick a field goal. That changed the whole game. At that point, it put the ball on Mahomes' racket, and they were not losing once that happened. All right. Can we tag Max Crosby from the Raiders? No chance, bro. There's a better chance that I signed with the Chiefs and the Chiefs have Max Crosby. They just extended him. He's not going anywhere. You think Andy coaches until he's 70 and Kelsey retires with him? Well, that's 6 years from now. I think Kelsey will be retired for 6 years from now. If Reed is healthy, he might coach another 5-6 years. I mean, he's signed for the next 3. Wouldn't be crazy. Kelsey will be retired before that. Is Andy now a top 2 coach of all time? No. He's not Belichick. He's not Paul Brown. He's not Bill Walsh. He's not Lombardi. Conversation starts for me after that. Do you think we restructure Frank Clark in a better number solely for his postseason play? I mean, I think it's more than just his postseason play. He played really well this year. He was a mentor for Carl Loftus as well. I think that matters. But I think realistically, like, what would be a fair contract for Frank Clark? I don't know, man. I mean, anywhere between, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million a year seems right. Seems right. I think that's reasonable. Maybe it's a little more. That's where I'd put it. Any updates on Justin Ross? None. I got to be honest, I haven't thought about Justin Ross. I did miss a few questions. Let me scroll back down. What changes did Reed make coming out at halftime? Honestly, I thought like they committed to the run game. They ran the ball again out of that third quarter. I was saying actually to my dad, and I was talking to him at halftime, I said, they've gotten away from the run. They've got to get back to it. Pacheco was killing the Eagles early in the game. They got back to it. Then they figured out with those motions, and they had kind of done it going into the game, but they really figured out, like, the Eagles, if they run these jet sweep motions, the Eagles are going to do one thing and one thing only, and the Chiefs are just going to kill them if they're in man coverage. That's exactly what happened. 2 of those touchdowns was walk-ins. It's embarrassing if you're Jonathan Gannon. 1 time's bad, 2 times really bad. What are you hearing is a fair deal for Snead? We can't let him walk. He's so important yet, Chandler. He's got 1 year left in his deal. I think $15 million a year is fair for Snead. I think that's what he should be. 4 and 60, maybe a guarantee 40 of it. That's about right. Yeah, you guarantee 2 years and kind of a partial guarantee in the third. Do you think Sky is going to at least be a number 2 next year? No, but I think he's going to see a lot more snaps. I think he's much more in the rotation. I think they probably let Watson walk. Although they play him a lot. They like Watson, but my gut is they let him walk. Hardman walks. So I think I don't know if he's a number 2. Maybe he's a 3, but I think he's going to be a lot more involved. How long does Nick Bolton have left in his contract, and how much will he get paid? Nick Bolton has 2 years left in his contract. He's eligible for an extension after next season. It's hard to say because he's an off-ball linebacker, and he's as good as he is. I mean, yeah, he's without the accolades yet. If I had to say right now what he's going to get paid, like if he was a free agent right now, 15 a year. He's a really good player, man. He's a really good player. And like if he makes all pro next year or something, price goes up. Might have already even asked, what was the adjustment the defense made to keep Hurts from running in the second half? I'd have to go back and watch the film, man. It's a good question, USA. I'd have to go back. I think there was, just from watching it initially, it felt like they were doing a little bit more of keeping those linebackers a little back and kind of trying to spy. But I could be dead wrong on that. I mean, obviously it's in the middle of the game. I'm writing a column. I'm making notes. There's a million things going on. I'd have to get back to that. I don't want to just give you some BS answer. I don't know. I'd have to look. It felt in real time, but they're spying a little bit. By the way, one thing that was really interesting, if you pull up the snap counts from the Super Bowl, okay, we've talked all year long here about Willie Gay and why do they take him off the field and what are they doing and what is the reasoning behind that? And it's been really, really frustrating. Like really frustrating. It wasn't in this game. It wasn't in this game. I'm trying to pull up those numbers right now. So I want to be accurate here. So Willie Gay, I can find it here. I think it's important. He always came off the field. on third downs throughout the course of the regular season, right? Like, it was shocking if he was on the field. And so let me see if I got it here right in front of me. So he was on the field constantly, constantly, um, in the Super Bowl. So, okay, here we go. Here we go. He was on the field for 88% of the snaps. In the biggest game of the year, Spags didn't take him off the field. He was on the constantly for his speed and his athleticism. He did a hell of a job. All right. Let me go through some of these a little fast, guys, because I got to catch up. And we got about 20 minutes left. Okay. Roster, how much cap space do we have going into the offseason and draft picks? Okay, so I just went over the cap space, so I think we covered that. As far as draft picks, let me pull it up for you right now. The Chiefs have, they keep trying to keep track of all this stuff. And all right, they have a first, a second, a third, 2 fourths, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. And then there's going to be compensatory picks as well. So right off the bat, they have 9 for sure. Extra fourth and an extra seventh. It's likely that they're going to end up with about 12 picks overall. Okay. The compensatory picks haven't come out yet, but probably about 12. Foss, what is your single defining moment for the Chiefs this season, or do you have a couple? The AFC Championship game was their defining moment. That, to me, those last 8 minutes when that defense had to do it and it was forced to make a stop twice, then Mahomes on a really bad ankle takes off and runs for a first down and gets him in field goal range with the penalty. Those 8 minutes, to me, define who that team is more than anything else they've done in the Andy Reid era. Is Hardman worth re-signing? I just don't think they're going to bring him back. I think it'll be a nice signing somebody else, but I think at this point he's a role player, and they have a ton of role players. They don't need him. Who was your favorite interview in Arizona? Frank Clark. Kelsey and Jones were all good. I was there for Andy's presser. I was there for Mahomes' presser. I thought Frank Clark was just insightful, man. Just really insightful, really interesting. Jason, Matt, do you think with all the crying over the penalty that the Chiefs would have scored and the Eagles got the ball, and the Eagles got the ball back, that they could have actually scored? No timeouts and a minute and a half left. Not sure they could have pulled off. Well, they would have had one timeout and they would have had a minute 40. I'm going to be very honest with you. I think if the Eagles had gotten the ball back, I think that game's at minimum going overtime because Hurts was playing out of his mind. Now, I will say this. The Chiefs defense has a propensity for getting big stops in big spots. Like, could I have seen them getting a stop? Sure. I don't think it was a foregone conclusion. But if you said to me, bet one way or the other, I would have bet overtime. I would have bet that they would have gotten a field goal. Okay. Brock, what would you do with Wiley? I would assess the draft class, and I would say, what is it going to cost? If you can get Wiley back for like 2 and 12 or something like that, I'd probably do it and say, look, it's still draft the right tackle. Let the best man win. You go swing. I don't know that Niang's in the plans at this point. Kennard, I don't know that you can go confidently into that. Now, maybe you do. Maybe you go after Mike McGlinchey in free agency. But I'm only bringing back Wiley at my price. He was amazing in the Super Bowl. He was solid throughout the course of the year for the most part. I'd be interested in bringing him back at my price, but I would assess all the other options. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Sean, just jumping on, but how does he beat out of a head coaching job? Like we've gone over this 1,000 times. There's so many, some teams doesn't interview well. For other teams, they don't give him the time of day because they don't think he calls the plays, which he doesn't, but neither did Doug Peterson, neither did Matt Nagy. And I think, frankly, guys, a lot of it, honestly, is he is a very strong personality. And that is a few of these teams. But I think, look, is there a racial component to it? Yeah, I definitely think there is. I do. Maybe you agree. Maybe you don't. That's fine. I think there is a racial component to it with him. I don't think it's so much like teams look at Bieniemy and go, well, he's black. I'm not going to hire him. I think it's more of a comfort thing with a lot of these older white owners who are intimidated by a very strong-willed, strong personality black man who I think they feel a lot more confident and comfortable in bringing in the 40-year-old coordinator who's got a binder in front of him, who's just going to say, yes, that sounds great, yes. Bieniemy's so much stronger personality. I do think race plays a factor. I think his personality plays a factor. I think he should have had a job 5 years ago. All right. Let's see here. What do we got? First round draft pick in KC. What position are we going for? Man, it depends on the board. Tackles in there, safeties in there, receivers in there. I think one of those 3 spots. Jesus for the super chat. Thank you, man. What free agent will the Chiefs target? It's hard to say. It's not a good class of free agents. I tell you what, though, I think they're in the market for a safety. If they let Thornhill go, I think they're in the market for safety. And that is the one position that is loaded this year. Bates is a free agent. Poyer's a free agent. Von Bell is a free agent. Thornhill is a free agent. There's a lot of guys. That would be the one position I'd really watch the Chiefs if they let Thornhill walk. Doug, Matt, in the draft, what round do we get a receiver and a defensive end? The wide receiver room is loaded. I mean, again, man, it comes down so much to like. And by the way, I should have said edge rusher as well in the first round. Those 4 positions. It depends what they do with Clark. Just tough to say, man. It's tough to say. I don't know. Like, I mean, it depends on the board. But I think they will address those positions. Adam, thank you for your amazing year, for the amazing year and all of the work from you and the team. What was your favorite interaction moment from your week in Arizona? Hey, thanks so much. Interviewing Joe Montana. That was pretty much a lifelong ambition. So I don't geek out about stuff like that. I mean, it's just my job. That was pretty cool. And, talking to the Chiefs after they won the Super Bowl wasn't too bad either. Do you think the Chiefs, do you think Veach will stick to what we have at safety? I think they will look in free agency and see what they can do. And if they have to, they could always circle back. Lucas, the Chiefs are stuck with $7.675 million of Frank Clark signing bonuses. Anything they pay him potentially in 2023 is added on top of that. That's right. And that's why I think if you're the Chiefs, like extending the guy probably makes the most sense. Like you're paying him that anyway. So what if you make his cap number $10 million? You're still lowering it by $19 million, right? So, I mean, I agree with you. I honestly think if you're Veach, like, what's better? Saving $19 million and having Frank Clark at a $10 million cap hit, or paying $7.7 million for Frank Clark and not having him and saving $21 million? It's a pretty obvious answer, isn't it? All right. Flapjack, I don't think they're going to do that again, man. I don't think they're going to do that. Colin says edge rusher and receiver priorities in the draft. Yep, I think they are. Any chance we get OBJ? I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, maybe, but like, at this point, like, I'd rather go get like Allen or something, frankly. I mean, he hasn't played in a year. Like, he's in his 30s. I'm all right. What do you think we do with Willie Gay? I know he's only got 1 year left. That's right. He's another guy. I mentioned Stephen Jones earlier. He's another guy. Like, you got to start thinking about him. Veach is going to be busy this offseason. I think a lot of it, I think will be internal. I think they're going to use a lot of that cap space to keep a lot of these guys in the team. In future years, do you see KC as a machine for producing high-earning free agents? Yeah, absolutely. They can't keep them all. Do you think we need to draft another safety with Thornhill probably leaving? Do you think Cook just takes over? I think they might sign a guy there. But I think Cook is going to see an increased role. He played very well. Yeah, Willie Gay, he's that fast, man. Jesus, draft offense or defense first. Depends on the board. They're drafting 31st. And 31st because the Dolphins forfeited their pick. So, considering the circumstances, is this the best season KC's ever had? I said earlier, yeah, I think it is. I honestly think it is. Thought Leo Chenal played well. Just a good game or signs of things to come. Hey, got to feel good about it. Leo Chenal played great, man. He was everywhere in the run game. And he had a sack, too. They credit him with a sack. He had a hell of a job. Let's see. All right. Heaven Bound. I see that. Thanks, man. I'll answer it when I see the email come across. Alex, if Mahomes does what he did this year, next year, would he be ahead of Montana in your eyes, leading the league in all quarterback stats, MVP, Super Bowl MVP? Montana, man. Ooh. No, I think he's got to get to 4. He's got to get to 4. He gets to 4. I think with all the other stuff, he would pass Montana. Montana, though, man, like Montana and Brady, that's the, like right now, I think that's the trilogy, frankly. Brady, Montana, and Mahomes. And then, with the pass Montana, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. You got to climb that ladder. You got to earn it. That's what makes it so sweet is earning it. Do you think Mahomes can catch Brady? I don't think he can catch him in Super Bowl rings. I think he can end up being the best of all time. I think if he gets to 4, you start having a real conversation about that. All right. Do you think KC training staff can keep Tony healthy with a full offseason of conditioning? If anybody can, they can. They have the best conditioning staff in the NFL. Would Clark come back for 3 and 45? I think he would. I didn't know if they had to pay him that much. I would look. I'd try to offer him between 10 and 12, and then go from there. That's just me. Maybe I'm nuts. That would be my thought. Do you think Mahomes is better than Peyton Manning? I think that's probably the closest argument right now outside of Montana and Brady. Like, both won 2. Manning had 5 MVPs. But the one thing about Manning, though, he had a lot of bad games in the playoffs. Mahomes doesn't. I got to be honest with you. If you ask me who I would take Mahomes. Do we need another good safety maybe in the draft? Yeah, I think so. 913, can you still get 6 packs of Arrowhead at the beer hall? Yes, and it's on tap as far as I know. So, yes, you can. Ulfric, I want to thank you on all your hard work, all of your work this season. Before and after every game this year, I always watch your live streams. Congrats on this success and go Chiefs. Thanks so much, man. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate every single one of you. How was meeting Joe Montana? It was meeting a childhood idol. It was pretty cool. Sitting there shaking hands with Joe Montana was like shaking hands with God. How does this Chiefs team stack up against the greatest teams of all time? Okay, you guys know I'm a history nerd. I've thought a lot about this. Here's what I would tell you. I think that the 60s Packers, I'm just going Super Bowl era. Okay. We're not getting into like the 50s Browns, the 40s Bears. 60s Packers, 70s Steelers, 80s Niners, 90s Cowboys, aughts Pats. Those are the 5 teams that are unequivocally better than the Chiefs to this point. I think the Chiefs are better than anybody else. You could argue 70s Dolphins. You could argue 10s Pats. The Chiefs have won 2 just like those teams, and they've sustained longer than those teams. For my money, the Chiefs are the 6th best team in Super Bowl era. I think that's where I'd put them. And if they win another one next year, you start getting into a real conversation about like the top 3 team in Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era. I mean, you'd really have that conversation. All right. What is Orlando Brown Jr. contract looking like after the season? I think it's going to look like a tag, and I think you're going to go right back to like 5 and 100. I mean, I think that's about what it's going to be. I mean, but the Chiefs are going to have to offer him a real 5 and 100, not like 40 million. It doesn't really count in year 5, like a real 5 and 100. Do you think those 7th rounders are going to be as good as this year's? No, because if they are, the Chiefs, they should just hand them the Lombardi now. If the Chiefs keep drafting Pacheco and Jalen Watson in the 7th round, I mean, honest to God, the rest of these teams in the West ought to just fold. Are we going to do a live show from the draft? I don't know yet, man. We're so far out. I'm not sure yet. Funny Money says, congrats, man. Congrats, dude. Who would you not mind the Niners taking? Look, the Niners, I mean, they're one of the best rosters, obviously, in the league. I'd like to see them maybe go corner. I think that would be a good spot for them in the draft. If they lose McGlinchey, maybe you go tackle. I mean, those would be the 2 things right off the bat that I'd point to and go, okay, I mean, you're good at tight end, you're good at receiver, you got your quarterback one way or the other. They don't need to draft the back. Yeah, I'd probably go corner or corner or right tackle should they lose McGlinchey. I mean, you always go along the offensive line, not go wrong. Is Hopkins worth it? Kelsey is basically number 1 anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think he's worth it, man. If they could get him for like a 3rd round pick or something, maybe like a 3rd and like a 7th or something, yeah, I would do it. But would they do it? I don't know, because they might look at it and go, look, we're already the best offensive football. I don't need it. It's fair enough. It's hard to argue it. What's more likely to happen, DeAndre Hopkins or Chris Godwin to the Chiefs? Well, Hopkins, look, both those teams are going to be in full-on rebuild modes, okay? Now, Godwin, his contract, let's pull this up, so I want to make sure I'm right. I hate when people talk uninformed, so I try to be right for you guys. If the Bucks trade Godwin, they got to eat $15 million, and they're only getting 8.7 back. I think Hopkins is much more likely. And you're going to hear people talk about Mike Evans this offseason. Mike Evans, they're not trading him. The contract, it would make no sense for them to trade him financially. So I would definitely say Hopkins. All right, let me see. Do we need another veteran backup now that Henny's retired? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll look for one, and then maybe, I mean, Shane Buechele, they like him, so that's interesting. Who now? Look, backup quarterback market. Who are you going to sign? I mean, some guys out there are interesting. There are guys like Darnold and Mayfield and Wentz. The Chiefs aren't going to sign Mayfield or Wentz. They're not going to want him in there. I think you're looking at like a legitimate, like a guy who's fine holding a clipboard, doesn't have any aspirations of being a starter at this point, because you're not bringing in a guy who wants to be a starter. You're not bringing in that guy. Okay. I'm trying to bring up the list here of the quarterback free agents. Just I know in my head, like, I mean, look, there's Jimmy G, there's Lamar, none of those guys. I mean, all right, so here's a list here that you look at. Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, Taylor Heineke, Chase Daniel, ironically enough. Honest to God, man, if he still wants to play, he's 36, that's probably who they'd sign, because he knows that team. He knows that offense inside and out. That would be my guess. Just knowing the way they operate, that'd be my guess. But I could see him going Pushell, too. I could see if they just want to go younger. All right, guys, we're going to rip through a few of these now. Make Jimmy Garoppolo Mahomes is back up. That'd be interesting. I thought Andy had the best game of his career. I agree with you. I thought the second half was literally the best I've ever seen him coach. It was unbelievable. If he coached like that all the time, they would never lose a game. Tony played the whole season with us at 70% super limited. Yeah, listen, that guy, if he's healthy, he could be a one. He could be a one. That guy, talent-wise, is insane. At what point does Andy break into the top three coaches? My top three are Lombardi, Paul Brown, and Belichick. That's a tough nut to crack, man. Like a couple more. It's tough. He wins another one, though, I'd put him ahead of Walsh. I would. All right, let's see. If we can't afford Orlando Brown, did he increase his value with the tag, trade for? I think the bottom line is just going to tag him. I don't think it really matters. If Mahomes is the exact same season, postseason stats, actually, we already answered that. I am, sometimes it scrolls on me. Sorry, guys. Thoughts on the Bengals keeping out of Romo? Big win for the Bengals. He's an excellent coordinator. Excellent. Top three in the league. Justin says big name wideout. I mean, Hopkins and Keenan Allen are probably the guys who are going to be available that you'd want to go get. Let's see. Do I think the Chiefs trading up in the first to make a splash? They could. I don't think they do it just to make a splash for the sake of it. If they could, they have the picks. They could do it. Jesus, can you explain how the Chiefs can create more cap space with Mahomes' deal? Yes. So essentially what they can do is some of the money, it's built into contracts in the NFL. Teams have the right to restructure. Because Mahomes' deal is so let's just say, just to make this real easy and simple, okay? Let's say they were like, all right, we're going to restructure the deal. Let's say there's 10 years on Mahomes' deal left. Now, there's a certain amount, because some of it you can't move because it's guaranteed and it's like structured within the deal that's that year. Some of it you can move. Now, in Mahomes' case, I think, and forgive me, I might be off by like $1 million or $2 million. I think it's like $23 million they can move. If they restructure, what happens is that money gets spread out evenly over the course of the remainder of his contract. So his cap hits for the following 10 years would go up by $2.3 million apiece. And if you're the Chiefs, because the contract, so that's why the contract's so team friendly. He signed for so long that you can just spread the hit out forever. And by the time they get toward the end of it, they'll just rip the contract up and give him brand new contract extension. Like, his contract is so unique. And honestly, it is the best contract team-wise in the NFL. It's ridiculous. His cap hit next year is 49.2. Then it's 44.2, 46.2, 41.9. Like, Derek Carr is going to get paid like $40 million a year. It's crazy. That takes you to 2027, which is the one real big balloon year. It's $60 million. You know what the cap is going to be by 2027? The cap this year is 225. The cap by 2027 is going to be like $300 million. They don't even care. And then it goes right back down to 44, 45, 50, and 52. Like, they don't care. He signed for 9 more years. It's honest to God. V should go in the Hall of Fame for that contract alone. It's unbelievable. All right. Let's see. All right. Let me just see here. Let me see. All right. Where are we at here? Okay. Alex, what is Mahomes' biggest hurdle to trying to keep pace in regards to stats and success his whole career? Probably once Kelsey retires and Reed retires. How does it look after that? Is the back half of the act as great as the first half? That's the key. That's tough. If Veach is there, my guess is they'll keep that team competitive for a long time to come. All right. Let's see. And then Casey Beer pops in and says the 6 packs of Arrowhead Lager are gone. It is still available on tap and for growler fills. Awesome. Go there. Go to the beer hall. Get your fills. More likely to be back in a 2 or 3 year deal, Wiley or Thornhill? That's a good question, Paul. Wiley, because there's more options for safeties and free agency, but I think it's possible both are or neither are. All right, Brett, with the backup quarterback, I'm just taking a shot. I think they might just go to Bouchel, but if they go veteran, I mean, Chase Daniels out there makes a lot of sense. Did Chiefs take a run at Payne from Washington? He will cost a lot of money, but I'll tell you, him and Chris Jones inside. Oh God. He'd be interesting, but he's gonna cost a lot of money, man. I think 12.5 sacks this year, dude's no joke. Clip says we're going to look back at this defense and think, how the hell do we have all those guys at the same time? Guys, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to make a real early prediction. They're going to be even better next year. And I don't mean the defense. I just mean the team. If they're healthy again, that team's ridiculous. And they played all those rookies. Now they got a full off season, everything else, weight training. Oh my God, that team is just good luck. If they're healthy, good luck. Burnett, hey, Matt, what do you think of Kadarius Toney's potential next season? I think if he stays healthy, could be great. Could be a 1,000+ yard guy. That's the big thing with him. Can he stay healthy? Speaking of corners, those rookie cornerbacks tackled hard. Best game in Josh Williams' season. I don't know if it was best game of the season, but look, they played great, man. They played great. Chuck, thanks for all the hard work you put toward the podcast, your passion for the history of the game, the knowledge base of the contributors to the Arrowhead Addict podcast. So why I became a Ring of Honor member. Chuck, thanks so much for all the support, man. I really appreciate it. I love doing these. Favorite moment from the Super Bowl? Mine is the punt return. Mahomes' scramble for me. Is it disrespectful to ask for team-friendly deals? These guys work hard. I think as a fan, it's disrespectful. I mean, if Veach went in there and was like, hey, man, I want you to take a team-friendly deal because it makes my life easier. Yeah, but I don't, for a fan, I get it. But I think keep in mind, don't get mad when guys take the money. Don't get mad when these guys take the money. You would take the money too. Okay? All right. Do you think Mahomes will try to stay in the pocket more next season to keep from getting hurt? I mean, he got hurt in the pocket. So, no, I think he's going to play the same way. Which receivers do you think will be here next season? Just look, right now, things can change, obviously. But right this second, I tell you, MVS, if I had to pick, I think Juju, Tony, and Moore are the 4 guys I think are going to be back. And then they might add a guy or 2. Which players will not be resigned? Hardman, OBJ, Thornhill. OBJ, I think will tag. Hardman, I think, is gone. Thornhill, I think, is only back at the Chiefs price. And he might come back at their price because safety's loaded. It is not a great year to be hitting the market for Juan Thornhill. Insanity. I have a couple questions here. Who's the next Chiefs backup? Is Chad Henne the greatest backup in Chiefs history? Is Chad Henne a greater QB than any quarterback they had from 96 to 2012? No, Trent Green was better. Is he the best backup in Chiefs history? Warren Moon was a Chiefs backup at one point. If you're asking me, was he the most consequential? Him and Matt Moore. Actually, you know what? That's a lie. No, neither one of them were. Mike Livingston was. Mike Livingston went undefeated for the 69 Chiefs for a month and a half when Dawson was out with a knee injury. Mike Livingston, best backup Chiefs history. Whew. All right. Matt, who is your rookie of the year for KC? God, there's so many of them. Pacheco. Are there any high-end defensive ends in the draft this year that you think the Chiefs would try to move up for? I'll tell you the truth, man. I got to look. I just started getting into it at the Senior Bowl, but then it was right to the Super Bowl. I got to look. I'm not sure. But thanks for the great season, Matt. Your Verderame answer always entertaining after a game. Glad I didn't have to give any for the last few months. Thank you. Do you think we make some deals with our picks to get higher in the draft? I think they'll move around. They usually do with Veach, and yeah, they usually move around quite a bit. I think they'll move up, they'll move down, stuff like that. Yeah, I do. I think they'll move around the board. Where does the season rank for Mahomes? Or excuse me, where does this season for Mahomes rank among best quarterback seasons of all time? 5,250 yards, 41 touchdown passes, and then you play 3 games in the playoffs. You win the Super Bowl, you win the Super Bowl MVP, and you don't throw a pick. Pretty effing high. Top 5. I mean, I have to go back and really look. Like, it's up there with like 99 Warner. Montana had a year who won the MVP and won it all. But yeah, man, like, it's top 5 for damn sure. Do we resign McKinnon? He is huge. I would. That guy can, man, he's such a great fit for that. I mean, he's not going to cost much. Ronald, just give him props for your time and insights on the mailbag throughout the season, man. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate you. Why would coach leave? Reed's not going anywhere. He was asked that in the presser I was at, and he was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Like the tall receiver, 6'3", 6'4". It's fair enough. Early prediction on next year. They are the prohibited. No, they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl in Vegas. I would concur. That team is just. They're just going to get better. Like they have a dozen picks. They're not losing anybody that you wouldn't think of major consequence. I mean, pick against them at your own will. They're at your own peril. T. Higgins would be my dream. I can dream. You can dream, but that's not going to happen. What free agencies are available, or what safeties are available in free agency? Bates, Poyer, Bell. I know you said free safeties, but I'm just going to give you the whole list. And then, of course, Thornhill. Those guys are all out there. It's a strong group of safeties. All righty. Let's see. Does injury make it more likely McCole comes back in a 1-year period? I just think they're done with McCole Hardman, man. And not that they like dislike him or anything. I just think they're kind of ready to move on. Could you see Jacksonville take the step and get with KC, Buffalo, and Cincy in the AFC next year? They have to have a really good offseason to get there. I think they're good. I don't think they're just going to fall apart and fall away, but I think they got to still get further on the track a little bit. Do you think McDuffie can creep in the top 10 corners next year? I think he can get close. He's a really good player. Matt, are you coming to KC for the draft? I plan to. Yes, sir. Not sure if you answered this. What do you think happens with EB and how Gannon got a head coach? Yeah, I kind of talked about him earlier, man. Look, his contract's up, so it'll be interesting to see if he stays or goes. But we gotta wait and see. My gut is after he almost left last year, he might be looking elsewhere at this point. You know, Washington seems like a very logical spot for him. Do you really think we'll keep Juju, to me, Justin Ross and John Ross? No, it doesn't matter. I don't think you're ever seeing those guys. I just don't. Sorry. They're hurt constantly. What position do you think the Chiefs will draft with their first round pick? Again, I think it's how the board falls. Edge rusher, receiver, right tackle, safety. I think we're all in the hopper. Oilers, the Chiefs will draft Army defensive end linebacker Andre Carter II. I actually got to be right next to him for a while. Or Jalen Hyatt. I actually interviewed Jalen Hyatt at Super Bowl week. Really, really cool guy. Nice kid. And a hell of a player out of Tennessee. Chance of Chiefs signing a free agent receiver, or will they try to add to the draft? I think there's a good chance the Chiefs will dip their toe in the receiver pool, dependent upon what kind of cost you're looking at, because the receiver market's gone bonkers in the last year. All right. Matt, I thought the hit on Pacheco. I thought the hit on Pacheco was spearing. Defensive back's helmet went right into Pacheco's sternum. Did you notice that? Yeah, it's clean hit though, man. Like, he's a ball carrier. He's not protected at that point. He wasn't defenseless. All right, last one. Chiefs again. Do you think the Eagles' cake schedule came back to bite them in the Super Bowl? I think the Eagles proved that they were a really damn good team. I think defensively, they showed some warts, but no, I think they were really good, man. They're really good. They were deserving to win. They just didn't. Steven, thanks for super chat, man. Trade Clark will be number 2 priority after Brown contract talk, and Juju replace Clark in the draft. They might. I tend to think they're going to try to restructure Clark and extend him a little bit. His use with Draft Simulator, do you like or use Draft Tech? Draft TEK. Insanity, how does it happen that every AFC West team, excluding the Chargers, has exactly 3 Lombardis, and all 4 teams have exactly 15 AFC West titles in a dot. I have no idea why there's that kind of parity. It's interesting. I didn't know that. What trade conversation do you think is fair if we tag Orlando Brown? Maybe a second and something else. So Frank Clark take on the role of Carlos Dunlap, the same as with Mark Ingram and Terrell Suggs. He's going to get paid more than Carlos Dunlap. He's younger. Thanks for what you do, Matt. Love the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Your insight is amazing. I'll miss talking football, but I'll be back before we know it. Take care, buddy. Hey, man. Arrowhead Addict podcast isn't going anywhere. Be here all season. Thanks so much. How do you feel about Kelsey almost killing McDuffie? I thought it should have been a penalty because he was illegally downfield. But other than that, I mean, it's a Super Bowl, dude. Like you're gonna crack pads. It just is. It is what it is. I got no problem. I had no problem with the Eagles in that game. I thought both teams played a fair, clean game. I really did. All right, everybody, that's it. That's all we got because I got a meeting in 4 minutes. So we are going to head out of here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. This has been great as it always is. Thank you for all the questions. We'll be back next week as we start looking at franchise tags and free agency and all the rest of it. But until then, thank you so much for joining us here. I appreciate it. My name is Matt Verderame. We'll be back in the Arrowhead Addict podcast throughout the week. But until then, take care.